Hello and welcome to the Ghost Quarter. It's been a while. So, I got a bunch of wood. Not this wood, that wood over here. Long story made short with that. Last year at the, almost said swap meet. No, that doesn't tell you where my brain's at. And it was this year, the Renaissance Fair, I mentioned making a Viking longboat. Now, that idea is still on the table. It's still on the table at the moment, but there's two projects I'm working on with that. Number one, the Viking longboat is like the number one project, but it requires several things. A lot of it is testing in small scale. But the first thing I'm doing with that is there's these water vaporizers that you put them into water fountains and it vaporizes the water. So what's going to happen is I'm going to get some of those. I'm going to throw them in a bucket and start running some experiments because it's going to matter when I get to the longboat. The second thing, okay, so we're talking, originally I was planning on a 6-foot Viking longboat, and that might still happen depending on my mood and finances, but that's really cost prohibitive. Now, that being said, there's a construction site over here that they're literally just tossing wood away, and I mean like literally just tossing wood. And that's where my comment about the wood came from, is there's enough wood there that they're just literally tossing that I could probably get away with, you know, a small scale version of the same boat that I had in mind. I'm literally thinking about just making a throwaway ship, more or less, like a prototype Viking longship. Not just to be able to say I made one this year, but literally to hammer out the kinks, meaning you can talk and talk and talk and talk and talk till you're blue in the face, but until you sit down with tools and make the thing in small scale, you have no idea what the actual construction problems are. And you have to look at it like that, because I can talk all day long about doing the project, or I can make the project in small scale and figure out what I can improve on my design. Because here's a few things people don't think about. Okay, you think of wood and you think solid, hard wood. True, but here's a catch. All wood is porous to some degree. And there is some wood that is so hard that it will sink in water. But the average materials that you're going to be working with are porous, meaning there's microscopic holes in the wood. Now, I'm not saying if you pour, you know, let's say a Sprite cherry on it, that all of a sudden you're going to see the Sprite cherry move through the wood like it's, you know, ethereal. I'm saying if you were to make like a cup or something, or like a ship that has water dripping down into it, and you don't seal that correctly, you're gonna have leaks. And I don't mean inside, I mean the water is going to come out. So I've been thinking on that, and I've been saying, all right, well, this is what I'm gonna do. And what it boils down to is you have to seal those. And the Vikings traditionally used pine tar. They would use pine tar and I believe wool, I think. Don't quote me on that. Do your own research. But they would use that so that the water, A, couldn't get in, and B, it actually adhered the wood better as they would put it on. So it was not only a sealant, it was also kind of a glue, because as it, you know, was pressed in, it would keep the wood there. And then they would clinker build it, which means they would ram a large nail through it, and then they would beat on the nail until it was adhered properly, you know, like this. you ain't moving. That piece of wood, it ain't moving after that. I can quote this according to the people that were making a reproduction full-size version of what I'm doing. It takes 100 hammer blows to get it to that point. I don't have that kind of time. I'm also not trying to be accurate about this. I'm trying to make original in vague shape of Viking longboat so average person looking at goes, oh, Viking longship. It's a longboat. You get my point. My point is the average Joe isn't going to know the difference. They're not going to care. They're going to look at that and go, wow, that's cool. Yeah, and that's what I'm aiming for. I'm not trying to be fancy over here. I'm trying to get to Viking longboat. So that being said, I need to get kind of back on point here. So what I'm doing is I'm going to be making a small-scale version of a Viking longboat. I'm not documenting that process on YouTube. Nobody watches my videos anyway. I doubt they'd actually care enough to watch said video. And I'd rather just show it to you after I'm done rather than me taking the time to YouTube it, editing a video that nobody's going to watch, and then guess what? So, yeah. That being said, I'm going to be making a small-scale version. Now, when I say small-scale, I mean small-scale, not... I mean, like, I'm talking literally able to hold one singular can size, the absolute bare minimum to qualify as a Viking longboat. And there's a reason. The reason is simple. A, I need to find out what materials it's going to take to seal that wood properly. Food safe, because I know, and I know there's going to be that one person that's going to be like, is that food safe? Did you use food safe glue on that? Did you? And it's going to be an absolute mess. So I'm just heading everybody off at the curve on that and just going, well, here's what it's in contact with, and everything there is perfectly safe. So, yeah. I mean, after a certain point, it's like, this Viking longboat does not need to go to California. It's fine. The chemicals and whatnot used are known to the state of California to cause a whole bunch of bullshit, with this Viking longboat. So I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm good. Anyway, that's the Viking longboat. It is basically a large drinking vessel that I'm going to show you in small scale first. I'm basically doing my best Adam Savage impression on that one, where it's just like, failure is always an option. Alright, so there's another project I've been working on, which this will probably be where the vast majority of the free materials go, and there's a reason for that. The reason why I say that is a friend of mine, the friend of mine and I that are putting on next year's Ren Fair, she was talking about a pickle cart, which I didn't know what that was, and I now know more about pickle carts than probably 90% of most people do. And it's just like, I didn't want to know about this, but I know about it, and I can't get it out of my head. It lives there rent-free. And here we are. So, here goes. The reason I say that is, the pickle cart is one of those things where you hear about it, and in your brain, you're like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And then you think about it a little harder. It's like, well, in the middle of, like a really warm spell, I could see, that being kind of a thing, and is it kind of, it's a thing. I could see it kind of going over. But on the other hand, I was thinking, arguably, for my stall, I could make the cart, if we choose not to use it for the pickle cart, I'll just set it up so that I make racks that go in it, and then just use that for selling other things in my stall. I'll just make it basically a mobile stall that I can literally just take the stuff off of the rack, throw it in there, and then throw the lid down and lock it if I have to walk away. Which is another reason why I'm getting the longboat made, is because I intend on making it with the intention of having a topper that goes on it that allows me to lock it down. And there's a reason for that. Last year at the Ren Fair, one of the other staff was getting pissed off that I would walk away from my stall and go mingle. And I'm like, this year I'm not having that. I will legitimately be able to walk away and throw up a ye olde sign that says, be right back. Because I'm not having that this year. Well, next year. You know what I mean? And so my plan basically boils down to everything in my stall needs to be A, easily movable, and B, locked downable at a moment's notice. Meaning I could literally just say, you know what, fuck this, I'm walking away for a minute. And go mingle with the people that I really worked hard to get there and earned the right to go mingle with. So, yeah, I'm just throwing that out there. Because I will not be heckled next year. I'm gonna just, yeah. I'm just heading that off at the curb. Anyway, the reason I bought this as well, this is a ice cooler. Can you tell I lift rotors for a living? Most people have to use 2 hands to do that. By the way, I'm getting fucking ripped, just so we're clear here. I've gotten to a point where I can literally flex my, pecs, and they go. It's kind of funny, actually. I wasn't trying to do that, but legitimately, I've been actively working on increasing my strength, like my core strength and my ability to lift heavy things one-handed. And it just kind of accidentally happened. I was at the mirror the other day with my shirt off, and legitimately, I tried it, and it's like, I wonder how that works. And next thing you know, it's like, huh, okay, weird. Didn't think I'd be able to do that one. Because in high school, I was not the athlete. I was the big fat guy that weighed 200 something odd plus pounds. You asked him to run somewhere, and he would be like, I'm dying. Nowadays, I literally run back and forth a small marathon at the Napa store I work at. So it's like, fuck, me of years ago would be dying right now. So yeah, I'm actually kind of proud of my physical strength and stamina at this point. But back to my point, I bought this for 2 good reasons. Number one, you see a McDo cooler. I see an ice barrel. Number 2, it actually worked as a way to show me how to make my Viking longboat. And I know you're going, how does that equal boat? I'm missing something here. You're right and wrong, and here's why. You're right in that there is something you're missing. You're wrong in that you think you're missing something. Let that sink in for a moment. Okay, so basically what that does is when you put ice in it, you got your ice up here, and then you've got your drinks in here, and then below that, the ice melts down over time, creating a layer of ice and water, but the water is drained down into a lower reservoir. So you end up with a lower reservoir of water that is separated from the ice, which is smushed down due to its own weight, and the drinks settle down with it, so the drinks always stay cold. It's why they always throw it in, slightly lower than the level of the ice. Because it stays cooler because it's lower, which means it's going to be cooler than the ice on top that's melting. I would say there's probably a good reason why the ice water is drained out, and that's to keep the ice cool. Now, in my case and what I got going on here, if I've got a sealed longboat, that's a problem because, okay, two problems that most people wouldn't think of. Number one, I've got a big pool of water. Number two, how the hell do I drain it? Yes, I could drill a hole through the side of the boat and just drain that out. But I'd rather put those vaporizers in there and just vaporize it out over the time that it drips down. My plan doesn't necessarily work the way I want it to, I think, because I don't think it's going to keep up with the level of water that I'm vaporizing. Which means I probably will have to have a quote-unquote emergency drain valve like this. This down here is not an emergency drain valve, but it is a drain valve. And I think I'm going to have something on the boat disguised as an emergency drain valve. Because if I have that boat, and let's say it's the end of the day, and I still need to get the vaporizers out of there, and there's pool, or let's say for a moment it's the middle of the day, and I have too much water in there to the point where I see it up in the drinks. I know my vaporizers at that point aren't keeping up, for one, and two, it means my drinks and my ice is going to melt and my drinks are going to get hot way quicker than I want them to. So that brings me to point number one. Point number one is emergency valve for that. And number two, if I try and move that while it's full of water, it's going to be a lot heavier, meaning a lot of wasted ice, a lot of wasted material that I probably could have saved. So basically I'm trying to think of how do I emergency, get rid of that. And I know I repeat myself a lot, it's a thing. My haters used to love to tell me I love to repeat myself. Well, it's mostly me just working through what I've got going on as I say it, because none of this is scripted. I don't do scripted videos. Well, let me rephrase that. I don't do scripted videos 99.9% of the time. I probably have done a scripted video, and I don't remember what it was, and I probably went off the cuff anyway. So, yeah. My point is, I like to repeat myself, but I have some plans, and the pickle cart's going to be a fun one. I like the idea of the pickle cart, especially where the wood's free at this point. I figure in another week, I'll probably have more than enough wood to start working on both the pickle cart and the Viking longboat. Both of them are a good plan. I like both plans. And along with my diorama making, I now have the materials for I have the face mask, I have everything that I need to do that relatively safely. So yeah, and I was thinking about the longboat as well, and it's I could make one out of really cheap materials, really cheap, going full cheap mode. I mean, there's cheap mode. I'm talking cheap mode, where it's so cheap that you bat your eyes hard enough at it, it'll just fall apart. That's how cheap we're talking here. I'm thinking popsicle sticks with a little bit of free wood that I got over here and making the general idea of it and then scaling that up. That's how cheap we're talking. We're talking cheap enough that I'm legitimately thinking about figuring out the size of the vaporizer and then making a small boat that has the holes in it just to see if it'll work in small scale. Because I'm thinking, you know, okay, well, if one works and it's let's not say battery operated, but something that could be like plugged in or something that's watertight and proof and all that good stuff. I'm thinking, you know, okay, well, at that point, if I can hide the vaporizers, you know, make it, you know, a way that it's not obvious that I'm running, you know, like devices here, that would be better. But it all starts with the small scale, because you don't want to go full scale, full size, and then realize, well, that was a mistake. That's not going to be what I wanted. And then, yeah. The other part of it is I actually have to find somewhere to store it after I've made it. And part of me is looking over at my wall going, you know, I'm not really using my storefront for what I want to use it for right now. I'm never here. And it makes one hell of a storage unit. As bad as that sounds, I'm like, you know, I make money here. I do make money. I do actually legitimately make money from the Ghost Quarter, just to be clear. But I'm looking at my wall and I'm going, this could be better. And I'm thinking, okay, well, as I get them made, I could literally just put them up on like my wall over here for right now, like my display shelving. You know, I'll show you when I get it done. The reason partially why is I'm going to use that as publicity, where it's like, okay, I actually have a Viking longboat. This is a thing. And I'm thinking that's when things start getting interesting, because I'm at a point where I can almost start really advertising and start really branding what I'm doing. And eventually I can do I'm motioning to my arcade machines over here that you can't see. I can do that full time. That would be cool. Being able to go from I can't do anything I want to do when I want to do it to I have carte blanche to do whatever I want. Whenever I want, wherever I want in the country. That would be cool. So that's basically what I'm working on, is developing my skills to a point where I could work anywhere and still make money. That would be kind of a big one there. And that's why I now have a Patreon, which I would love it if you'd go and check that out, because I will be posting photographs and videos to my Patreon for patrons only, where I'll be going over some of these experiments and some of the weird stuff that I'm doing, because I've literally bought the world's blackest paint. I have Black 4.0 in hand. I have mirror paint. I basically went through Stuart Steeple's website and I'm just like, click, 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 click. Because the reason why it got worse as I was going was just price, 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 price. I'm just like, yeah. So yeah, I have officially gone full artist at this point, and I'm just like, I now understand why artists are starving. Art stuff is expensive. Because holy crap, you know, the world's blackest paint wasn't cheap. Just throwing that out there. Mirror paint, also not cheap. Pigment paints, actually not bad for what I got, and they do last quite a bit, but still not cheap. Anyway, so yeah. I'm going to get out of here and get on with actually doing something I need to do today, because this is just procrastination, and I really do need to get on, but thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. My drink is warm. That's not great. I need a Viking longboat to put it in and cool it off. Catch y'all on the flip side. You know, actually, and sorry, quick side thought. It would be pretty cool to figure out a way of getting like a refrigeration unit inside of the Viking longboat, so I don't even need ice. Basically, how a old like the Coca-Cola vending machines, like this one, but the flap like this. No, I'm not suggesting I make a Coca-Cola Viking longboat. That would be awesome, but I'm pretty sure that the Coca-Cola company would they would literally look at me like, absolutely not. No. I literally can see, like, the CEO, hearing the person even suggested the idea of the Ghost Quarter having a Coca-Cola Viking longboat, leaning forward and just going, no! So, yeah, I see that one coming. But it would be pretty cool if I could actually pull that off. But first, let's get one made. I think that's kind of the big one. But why I bring that up was the idea of a cooler. Because if there's a cooler inside of that, even a miniature one, I could make my life a lot easier. Because I could just chuck everything in there, and then instead of people being able to open it whenever they want, just slide a bar through it and then lock it. That's all you gotta do at that point. Literally just a bar that slides through, locks, and on one side, and you can't pull it through. Actually, that's a really good idea. Hold on. Let me show you what I mean. So, this is some foam that I got. So, let's say for a moment that I know you probably can't see nothing there, but I'm talking about 3 stand-up parts that are attached to the individual openable container parts on here. You just slide a rod through, and it doesn't let them open. And it just locks on one side, and it's barred on the other, meaning you can't pull it through on the other side. Basically, it's form-fitted to fit on there, so that, well, yeah. It's like taking this, ramming it through, and then you can't lift whatever it is underneath that's attached because it's rammed through. Hell, it doesn't even have to actually attach to the individual containers at that point, as long as the individual containers are held down in some way. I mean, you could literally just make a large U shape, thread that through, or thread that down in some way, and it would prevent people from opening your Viking longboat when you walked away to use the restroom or whatever. It crossed my mind. Basically, security is one of the biggest factors in what I'm doing, because last year I got my ass chewed by somebody that had no right to be chewing my ass, to be honest, that I walked away from my stall. I just look at her and I go, I'm doing something. I will be at my stall in a minute. It's like, yeah, I lost money. I already knew I was going to lose money out there this year. I knew that was going to be a thing. I didn't care. I was doing a thing. I was networking. And there's a reason for that. Because here's the thing. Networks is where your net worth is. The more people you know that are aligned with what you're already doing, the more likely you are to succeed at what you're doing. Because here's the thing. They're all doing the same thing you are. And successfully, usually. Which means you can learn something from them. I would rather lose out on $200 worth of product that just walked away and gain, like 6 people all doing the same thing that I'm doing successfully, learn something from them, come back to what I was doing, like, hey, maybe I should secure that down this year so people can't steal my while I'm walking away. Just saying. That would have been a good idea, but I kind of half-assed it this year, and that was my fault, so I learned something valuable. But where I'm going with this is some of the contacts that I made, good friends of mine now. So I would much rather have lost out on the materials that I lost out on, the sales, whatever, than not meet those people. So yeah, that's why I didn't mind that. All right, now I'm going to actually go. I really do need to go do something else other than this. So talk to y'all later. Good talking to you. I'll see you next time.